Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining our diagnostic training session today. Now, this week, it is a pre-recorded session. So if you do have any questions, if you're watching on Zoom, you can reply to the confirmation email you got. That'll go to my email box. And then I'll respond to those when I get back from traveling. If you're watching this on YouTube, just leave a comment under the video. Same thing. I'll get to those when I get back. And then on Facebook, you can just leave a comment underneath as well. And then I will get to those at the end of the session as well. So my name is Jason Gabrinas. I'm one of Snap-on's National Diagnostic Technical Trainers. Been in the training department the last 9 years or so, traveling around North America, helping techs and shop owners get the most out of their diagnostic equipment. Before I did that, it was a couple years as a diagnostic sales rep with Snap-on. Had about 30 different Snap-on franchisees I worked with, as well as the shops that they serviced in order to help everyone get the most out of their diagnostic needs. Then before I did that, it was 8 years at Subaru, so worked in a dealership, and over time, I guess, just became the go-to diagnostic guy in the shop. So always ended up with the drivability problems, the intermittent problems, the weird wiring problems that would show up on those cars. And that's really where I cut my diagnostic teeth, was trying to figure out all those weird head scratcher type problems that would wind up in my van. And before that, a bunch of other miscellaneous wrenching jobs. Been a little over 25 years under hood experience for me. What we're talking about today is diagnostic workflow. It's important to have a good repeatable workflow to work through when you're diagnosing anything, really. And especially important when we have a code. And it's important when we don't have a code as well, but certainly important when we do have a code. So at least it gives us a place to start on our journey. So if we think about the workflow, it's going to be, well, first off, we have to intake the customer, get their information, go through, figure out what they think is wrong with the vehicle as well, and then start from there, right? We can progress. Then it's time to break out the scan tool. Whether we have a code or if we don't have a code, what you want to do is you want to do that pre-scan. You want to scan the entire vehicle, all modules, and report back what you have for codes. So if you go through all modules, you may find some codes that don't have lights associated with them and other modules that you might not know, could be causing you an issue. So it's definitely a good idea to scan all the systems instead of just going into one system one at a time. We can do that on the older vehicles. We have to do that on the older vehicles. But most newer vehicles nowadays, we can go through and we can scan the entire vehicle as a system. Then once we're done with the pre-scan, we can figure out, well, do we have any codes? And if we do have any codes, we can start with a diagnosis. Even if we don't have codes, we do diagnosis too, but it's a little bit different way of doing it. So we'll go through our diagnosis, we'll determine the cause, we'll use testing and repair information, et cetera, to go through and see, okay, how do I fix this problem? Or how do I diagnose what's wrong with the vehicle? Then we fix the problem. It's the next step in repair. So we're going to go in, we're going to actually fix the problem, replace the part, repair the wiring harness, whatever we need to do in order to solve the problem that the vehicle and the customer is having. Then after that, we're going to need, probably more than likely nowadays, we need to do recalibration, reset, relearn, some sort of recalibration to the system there, depending on what it is. But many parts now need a recalibration in order to finish the job. And then we'll take a road test and we'll verify operation, and then we'll do another post scan at the end. So we'll scan all the modules again, and we'll make sure there aren't any codes left in the system, and that will allow us to give that car back to the customer with a clean bill of health and hopefully avoid any of those comebacks that might have. So for this section, as we said, this is part 1 of 2. For this section, this segment tonight, it's going to talk mainly about the diagnosis phase. So if the codes are found, we're going to determine an action plan. It's good to have a repeatable diagnostic workflow. We're going to walk through and gather information. I like to say wrenches don't really fix cars anymore. It's information fixes cars, because we need that information in order to go through a good diagnosis and repair the problem. So we're going to gather TSBs. TSBs are the first thing you should check, even if you don't, because the manufacturer may have figured something out that you're about to find out on this car. So, oh yeah, we've seen like 100 of those, and here's the problem. Here's what fixed it. So you may find yourself with a common problem, and a TSB can help you out with that. Then, of course, OEM repair information. I need to have my diagnostic charts and my wiring diagrams and any other manufacturer specific from the manufacturer information to repair a car more than likely. How about some real world repair information? We want to put that in there as well. What have other techs done in this same situation? Maybe you'll be able to figure it out a little bit easier if you can see what another tech has done. And then data stream, right? We want to check the data out of the vehicle. We want to check freeze frame data as well, and check the data stream coming out, see if there's any anomalous data. Functional tests. We can use functional tests to diagnose something I need to turn on and off, like an AC clutch or some sort of a solenoid. Maybe I need to cycle it on and off with a bidirectional control. Functional tests can help us in that diagnostic process and say, hey, this is either working or it's not. And then that brings us to component testing. If we deem that it's not working and we want to test it, then we would go test the component directly. You don't want to just guess and just use the information the computer gives you, because it's not always 100% of the information you need. You need to be able to sort it out and figure it out whether or not the actual component has failed, because we don't want to get that parts cannon out. Right? We want to make sure we're testing the component to verify the failures. We're going to go in and test the circuit, test the component, verify that we do have a problem or we don't have a problem. We don't want to just go order parts unnecessarily. So let's go live on the tool. This is going to be mainly tool driven today. But before I even get on the tool, though, actually, I need to start with custom, right? Customer comes in, I have my shop management system right here. I need to write a repair order. There's a few things we're going to do with this repair order throughout this scenario. So I got to start a new order here, and I'm going to write it for Mr. Joe Johnson from Snap-on's founder there. And he has a 2016 Chevy Tahoe. So we're going to open that up, and then we're going to get to the repair order. So vehicles come in and we ask Mr. Johnson, well, what's going on with your vehicle? Maybe he has a fluid leak or no start, hard start. How about a surge or a chuggle going out there? Maybe it's a drivability type problem. So maybe we'll add that one in there, drivability problem. Add that in there. Once we go through, we say, okay, it's going to be, however much it's going to be for a diagnostic fee. And then we'll just go through like that and start the order. So we bring the vehicle in. And then, of course, what we need to do is we need to scan that vehicle. So we'll take our scan tool here and we'll go into scanner. Now, this is an important screen that comes up, and I want to make sure I mention this, spend a little bit of time on it, because we still do get phone calls throughout the day at tech support for this type of thing. So this is important to note, because it is the opposite of everything we've been telling you for the last 30 years of scan tools. What we need to do, and it's been 4 or 5 years it's been this way, we need to make sure the key is on the vehicle before we connect the scan tool. Now, why do we need to do that? So we have this function that's called instant ID. So what that does, and so this applies to any of our scan tools, it just seems to affect the ones with the wireless dongles a little bit more, but it's true with any of our scan tools now, is when the tool sees power, that is the cue for the tool to go look and find a VIN in the module. When it finds the VIN, it pulls it back, decodes it, and that's how we can get into get the vehicle ID more accurate. Problem is, if the key is off and I go to plug into the vehicle, well, the tool's still going to see power, right? It's going to see power coming down pin 16 as long as the fuse is good. So it'll see power, and then it'll try and find the module. Problem is, key's off, so the module's not on. So it's going to try and find it. Eventually it times out, tries again. During this time when it's doing all that, maybe you've turned on the key now, so it throws it out of sequence. So it seems like it's taking a long time to ID a vehicle in some cases. Maybe people call up and mention that. It's like, oh man, this thing takes forever. I'm having trouble communicating with the module. I can't get into the car right away. What we want to do is make sure the key's on first, plug in the tool, wait for it to beep, and then we'll be able to go in and connect the vehicle, and then the instant ID should work as designed. So just make sure you take note of that screen. It shows up on the Zeus and it shows up on the Veris. It doesn't show up on the other tools because it doesn't really affect them as much, but that is how it works. So we want to make sure the key is on first before we plug in. Once we've done that, we can ID the vehicle, or maybe instant ID is already started, but in this case, we're going to load our demonstration vehicle, and it is our Tahoe right here. Now, another thing we've added fairly recently in the last couple of years is this vehicle information screen. So we have the VIN. So whatever VIN was used in IDing the vehicle. So in this case, it's just year, make, model. But other times we can have, all 17 digits will show up in there. If it does instant ID, it'll put it in there. If it does auto ID, it'll show up in there. And then we also add in the odometer on vehicles that support it. So it'll pull the odometer out of one of the modules too, and just pull that up on the screen. Like I said, as long as the computer supports it. And then it also has another place to plug in your license plate or the customer's license plate number to allow it to easier to find later on down the road. Makes it easier to find. If I have 1,000 vehicle records in there, it gives it time. So we'll hit OK. Load into the vehicle. It's currently running in demo mode, so let's continue there. All right, and then we have our code scan, clear all codes, and then service resets and relearns quick link here. So this gives us a quick link to any resets, relearns, recalibration that's needed on the vehicle. So that gives us a nice link there. We're not going to talk about that today though. And then down below is going to be all of our modules. So if I don't have a tool like this, I can still go into my module separately. You see what we do though is we categorize those modules, steering and chassis here, seat controls, instrument cluster, etc. So it gives us all of these categorized systems. If I have 20, 30 systems on a vehicle, makes it a little bit easier to see. And then we have our code scan. So we talked about the importance of going through and doing a code scan on a vehicle so we can scan the entire vehicle, all modules, check them for codes. So we'll do a pre-scan since we haven't started yet, or we're just starting. So we'll have our pre-scan here. It's going to go through, scan all the different modules, and then it comes up with some codes. You'll also see that it's saved there. That little flash of gray on the screen indicates that it's been saved. So it's been saved to the tool, and it also will upload to the free Snap-on Cloud service that you would have access to as well, as long as you're using Snap-on Tool Accord. And then we can scroll down and see the status of all the other modules on the vehicle. In this case, they're all green, which means there's no codes and it's in good shape. OBD2 codes, it also checks, and it also checks mode 10 permanent codes, and it also checks the readiness monitors down below for all the monitors, right? So this will help you when you do a post scan as well, and you can see, well, have all the monitors set. I can confirm that the monitors have set, or hey, you can see, was a code cleared recently, maybe by another shop? You can see not all the monitors may be run, and it may also have a code in the permanent codes as well. So once all that's done, we have our codes on the screen. Now we want to report. We have a report that we can share with our customers. So you saw how it's saved. So you can come down here, open this up. We can see the codes are here on the left. And then I also have a vehicle system report over here. So if I double click on that, it's going to open the report for me in a PDF format. And you can see right there, shop name and all that, vehicle information. That's going to show us the systems with codes, systems without codes, and then it gives us a little more detail down the bottom here. It shows us our monitors as well. So you can see all the detail there. So we could print this out. We could hand it to a customer if we wish to do so, or we can attach it to an email if we wanted to do it that way, or we can share it using the free Snap-on Cloud service as well. So let me show you that. On a Windows-based tool, like a Zeus or a Verus, we have a link to the Snap-on Cloud. Otherwise, you can go right to the web. Anything with a web browser, it'll work. Just go to the website altusdrive.com and you can set up a free account there. But if we go in here, we can see how it looks. And it's back to where I was. So you would log in, and then we'll be able to see, here's my system report from earlier this evening. We can see that vehicle system report right there. We can click on it, open. I can click on it, open again, and it's going to open in a new window. And it gives us a report. It looks exactly like it did on the tool already, right? This is one from earlier. We can see that right there. If we go down to the bottom of this report, we can see it also tags it with what kind of report it was, pre or post scan, code numbers, VIN, year, make, model, etc. We can see all that information down here on the bottom. And that makes it a searchable tag, so we can go through and pull back just that information. If I have thousands of different documents, because it does pre-scans, post-scans, ADOS reports, it does screenshots, it does photos off the camera. So all those things get uploaded to this website. So you would want to be able to search through and see the documents related to just that one vehicle. You could do, if you did the license plate, it would tag it in there as well. Now, if I wanted to share this with a customer, I can go up here to this link, and then it's going to give me 3 ways that I can share this. So first one, send via SMS. So that is if I was on a phone and I wanted to text it to somebody. If I had this open on a phone, that wouldn't be grayed out. It would give me the option. So I can click on that and I could text it to somebody using my phone. SMS is short message service or a text. Next one, send via email. So if I have an email client installed on the machine I'm using, like Outlook or something like that, I can click on that and it'll open up a new email. It'll put the link in the body of the email, and then I can just tell it who I want it to send it to, and it will send. And then we also have copy to clipboard. So that'll copy the link to the clipboard and allow me to paste it anywhere. So that's what we're going to do right now. And I could paste it anywhere I want. So in this case, I want to paste it in my shop management system. So here's my repair order for this car again. And I want to add a note. So I'll go up under notes, and then I will just paste in that link. And now my link will be linked to the repair order. So then I won't have to worry about finding it later. And then we see it also comes up as a line item right there. So I could reopen that, highlight it, paste it in my browser, and it would work to link it, a month, a year from now. If I go back in my history, my repair order history in this customer, I can go back and I can see, oh, well, there was the pre-scan, post-scan right there as well. So that's kind of handy how we can do that. All right, so there's my vehicle system report. There's my upload. So we went through, we intake the customer, we scanned the vehicle, we showed them the pre-scan, and now they authorized, maybe an hour of labor time or whatever it happens to be. So we can go in here under the P0300 and let's diagnose this code. So we'll hit diagnose. Now on this tool, it is a Zeus, so it has fast track intelligent diagnostics. So if you have a Zeus, a Triton, or an Apollo, any of those, as long as they have current subscription or data plan active on them, they will have access to this diagnostic workflow is really what it is. So it's called Fast Track Intelligent Diagnostics. It is a repeatable diagnostic workflow, and it filters out all the information on the tool based on the vehicle and the code that we're working on. So we don't have to worry about any of the other noise, hundreds of PIDs or hundreds of TSBs to filter through all that information, and just brings it right to the one page where we need it. So we want to read it like a book, top to bottom, left to right. So first thing and most important thing we want to check is TSBs, because once again, a manufacturer could have figured out this problem already and already has a fix for it. So we'll go into TSBs and see what we can find. It looks like there's 2 of them. So instead of the 400, 500 TSBs that might be on this vehicle, it's going to bring back just the 2 that apply to this particular concern. So first one, engine misfire may be due to loose spark plug wire. You can see we got the OEM information right there. We do get the information from the OEM as soon as it's published, and then we are able to publish it to our products within 2 to 8 weeks, depending on where we are on their update cycle. So you will have access to TSBs faster through us than anywhere else other than the manufacturer. So it looks like in this case, this is dealing with spark plug wires, and they could have a missing C-clip on the end that connects to the ignition coil. I thought that was interesting because if you're going to check it for a misfire, maybe you pop the wires off, you look on the spark plug end, but you might not think to look at that coil end, right? So we have a loose connection there. It's not holding enough tension on the coil. So then it gets a little bit loose, and then it's difficult to make a connection there, and it will cause issues. So let's say in this particular example that we're looking at Mr. Johnson's car, and sure enough, we look and say, hey, I'd never seen that before. Let's go inspect the spark plug. So we inspect the spark plug wire, and sure enough, there it is. Got a problem there. So let's say we replace the spark plug wires, and that solved that problem. But we still have this P0446 code as well. So let's go back and switch to the 446. Now, another nice thing we have is this drop-down menu. So I don't have to go back and forth and switch and try to find the code. I can just switch over to the same code, or different code from that's the same page. P0446, there we go, top to bottom, left to right. TSBs look good. TSBs look good. We don't have any TSBs there. So next thing we want to do is go over to my top repairs graph. So this is our experience-based information. It's based on over 2 billion real world repair orders that are there. So we're actually able to go through there and find out on vehicles with a P0446 on a 2016 Tahoe with a 5.3 with a P0446, what was done on the repair order. So you can see number 1 overall, replace the evap canister vent zone. Number 2 is replace the canister itself. 3 is the filter. 4 is the purge solenoid valve. 5 is gas cap. And then we see number 6 says cleaned. So cleaned the evap canister vent zone. So maybe a couple people cleaned it and that solved the problem. Maybe it was sticky. I don't know. Full of goo, full of a spider's nest, maybe. Seen that before on the vent. So what we want to do is we want to take it based on the mileage of the vehicle and see which one seems to pertain a little bit better. If I was down here in the 25,000 mile range, number 1 overall at 25,000 miles is the canister. We don't get into the solenoid until we get over here closer to like maybe 50. Right, so we see just where it is. Now, some of them are not as obvious as this. Some of them, it's something you would totally never even think about being the case. And that might be one that you want to investigate. Now, I'm not telling you just do the number 1 thing and you're all okay, you're all set. That's a really bad idea, but that's the first place I want to look. That's the first place I want to check. So top to bottom, left to right, we got that. Next thing we got is smart data. So we can go through the data stream. And what this is going to do for us is it's going to take the full list of PIDs and it's going to filter it down just to the PIDs that we need to look at or should be looking at for this particular problem. So it starts with a baseline and then a known bad vehicle, and then we can filter out from there. So it looks like in this case, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 19 PIDs out of dozens of possible PIDs that are available. So if I go to my custom list, we can see what's there. We can see the black ones are the ones that are picked, and then the gray ones are the ones that are not picked. And it looks like there's way more not picked than there are picked. And that's fine, because I really don't need to know necessarily, what the mass airflow is doing if I'm trying to check an evap vent, right? Might not necessarily need to know that. Might not need to know my barometric pressure or my ignition signal, right? We don't need to know all these things if we're diagnosing an evap problem. So it filters out all this noise and it gives us just what we're looking for. So I go back to that list again. We're going to see that we have a flag. Now, depending on what the data is and what kind of vehicle is and what kind of problem it is, you could have multiple flags on multiple PIDs. So what this blue outline flag that is now red, but it was blue outline white, what that indicates is that PID is being monitored and it hasn't exceed our known good min-max values. In this case, we have a red flag, which indicates that that PID has gone outside of min-max value based on real world cars. Now, you could also set your own minimum and maximum values in here. We're not going to go through that, but you could go in here and set that parameter to whatever you want it to be. And you can also record that as well. Now, it's automatically recording for us. It also automatically saved it when it triggered. So if I go down here on the bottom and I wanted to replay that, you see we have PIDs right. So I can open up those PIDs. It's going to open up on my screen in my ShopStream Connect file viewer. And then we can see there's my red line there. And then all the other ones have a gray line going across at the same time. So we can see what's going on with those particular PIDs. Any snap-on scan tool will be able to save the recording and play it back in the scanner data viewer that's in ShopStream Connect as well. So just so you're aware, if you have a non-Windows based tool, you can still go through and access that on your Windows based device because it does only install on Windows. So there's my data. Another thing that we've added to the data is this flag tracker down here. We call it a clear view flag tracker. So what that does is on this timeline, it's by ticks, number of samples, right? So on this timeline, that flag set way over here towards the beginning. I could have another flag here, could have another flag there, depending on where it is when I'm playing it back. So the nice thing is I see this flag, I can see where it is in time. And if I click on that flag, it's going to open up the PIDs that triggered at that point, and it's going to bring me to that point in time on the recording. So I can see right there, there's my red line. There's where it triggered. Came down and it triggered. If I want to open up something else, I can see where it triggered on at the same time on those PIDs. It just would be a dotted line because that PID did not trigger at that time. So I can see that's related to this one over here. And all of them will have that dotted line on there unless they actually set a trigger. So that's a nice visual way of going through your data. And you can just click through down here and just see where everything lies. So I can see the different parts of the window there and see where it goes. All right, so that's my data. And maybe we find an anomaly in the data. Maybe we don't find an anomaly in the data. Next thing we want to do is check what's going on with the vent solenoid. So I want to find out a little bit more information about this vent solenoid because maybe I'm not very familiar with it. So I want to go all the way down to the bottom here. I know kind of skipping ahead, but I want to go into my repair information. So this is a link to optional ShopKey Pro or Mitchell Pro Demand. And what it's doing for me is it's logging me in, it's logging the vehicle in, and it's doing a search for the code that I was on. So there it is. There's my search results right there. So that saves a ton of time versus having to walk across the shop, open the computer, open the web browser, log into the website, log the vehicle in. Oh, what code was that I had? I don't quite remember. Maybe I wrote it down. Saves all that time. You can do this from the seat of the car. I'm still working in the scan tool. I can do it all from the seat of a car. So I have my OE results over here, and then I have my filtered results or additional results related over here. So what it's going to do is it's going to take the code and it's going to add that list of common repairs there. So in this case, evap canister vent valve, vent solenoid. Go in here, gives us our fixes, causes and fixes, guided component test, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Component connector. How about component locator? Where is this part located? So I need to be able to test it. I need to know where it is. So that's number 10, it says on this diagram. Pull up the diagram. And number 10 is back here. Move that over a little bit. There we go. Number 10 is back here. Looks like way in the back, behind the axle, close to the fuel tank, which is to be expected. Most vent valves, it's going to be in the back near the fuel tank or near the evap canister anyway. So we can see that back there. And then that would be where I need to test it. So obviously I got to put it up in the air and I got to be able to access it from the ground. So I'll put it up in the air and then I'll be able to test it from there. The connector's back there. Okay, so speaking of the connector, let's pull up the wiring diagram. I want to be able to see the wires so I can actually test this circuit. So there's my wiring diagram there. I'm going to open it up. And one thing you'll notice when I do open it up is I have some wires that are already highlighted down because those wires are attached to the solenoid. Its eyeball right here will dim the other wires, makes it a little easier to see. And now I can zoom in on them. Scroll up a little bit. Okay, so we see we got the solenoid controls on this white wire right here. And then the red and green wire goes up over here and off the page. So let's see where that one goes. Another nice thing about the highlights is it carries through on the next page. It also carries the zoom level through. Brings me to my third page and I can scroll up and see where that goes. So instead of having to print them out, tape them together, use the manual highlighter to highlight them all. No, we don't need to do that. The tool does it for us. So there's our underhood fuse block, and there's the fuse for that, and that is on pin H3 on connector H5. So what if I want to find out where this pin is and check the voltage there? What if I want to pin it out there? So I'll go to click on this, see where it says X5 right there. Click on that. And then we'll find the connector. Now there's a lot of connector X5s, so we got to find it on the list. All right, so go in, let's see, what was it? Underhood fuse box. And it was H3, so that's H1, that's H6, so 1, 2, 3 right there. That's that pin right there. Should be able to see that as well. H3, left. No, that's all. I skipped over it. There we go. Battery positive voltage. That's our battery positive output. So that's what we should see right there because it is a constant battery power and the ground side is controlled by the computer. So that's right there, pin H3. So now I know where I need to pin it. if I need to pin out that side with the fuse. Otherwise, to pin it out, I can look at my data component. So let's go back to, now that I have that information, I know where it is, I know what wire colors I'm going to go back to the scanner and back to my intelligent diagnostic. So we did data, well, we did TSBs, we did the graph, we did the data, so we're kind of going in a nice order here. Functional tests. You can go down to functional tests, evap vent solenoid valve. Notice that it was a filtered list of tests at the top as well, so I don't have to hunt through all of the output controls on this vehicle. Come in here, it's going to collect data, and then there's my functional test. So I could set it to venting or not venting, open and close. It defaults to open, and then I could close it. So I could be doing this under the car with it in the air and seeing if it clicks just by doing it that way. I can also see how the data would react. And you see there's a lot more data on here than there was before because it doesn't filter down the list based on that for the test. So venting or not venting? Fair enough. Let's go down to the next one, which is guided component test, where I'm going to test the component itself. So I'm going to go, once again, it's filtered out based on the code, based on the vehicle. We have vent solenoid right there. And then I can get a little bit of component information. It's going to tell me how it works. And then if I back up, I can do a DC voltage test. So yellow goes to vent control, black goes to known good ground. So I have color coded leads. Channel 1 is yellow. And then that'll be white. And then red and green is going to be on the voltage positive. We saw that on the wiring diagram. During the monitor, PCM energizes the solenoid, allowing vacuum pressure to build in the fuel tank. Should see 1/10 of a volt or less on the control side when it's energized. And we're going to move over to the power side, and it should be normally open, should see 12 volts on both A and B with the meter lead connected to ground when de-energized. So when it's off, it should be 12 volts. When it's on, we should see 1/10 of a volt on the control side. So that's all well and good, but I want to be able to cycle it on and off while I'm also testing it with the scope. So we can do that too. So let's back up here a little bit. I'm going to go back into my functional test. I want to be able to turn it on and off while being underneath the vehicle to test the valve. So we're going to go to the evap vent solenoid. Continue. And then it's going to pull us into this, right? Now, I'm going to go home and I'm going to go into my guided component test module by itself. It's going to carry the vehicle through. Go into engine. And then you see we have all of our different components that we can test here. We're going to go on the evap system and the vent solenoid that we saw earlier. There's our component information and the DC voltage test just like before. Go to the DC voltage test. I'll hit view meter. It's going to click and buzz. It's going to automatically set the voltage where it needs to be. It's automatically going to set the time where it needs to be. And then I see right here, I got 0. Now I want to be able to see this on the screen at the same time as the functional test, right? So I'll hit meter, makes it a window. Now that it's in a window, I can go home, I can go back to my scanner, and I'm back at my test. Go down the bottom, pull this up, go to my scope viewer, take that, snap it to the right, take that, snap it to the left, and now I can cycle it venting to not venting, and see if it changes. Now, if I'm supposed to have voltage on the control side and I don't, then I know the voltage probably isn't making it through, right? It's not switching. It's trying to switch, but it's not. What if I hook up to it though, and I see this? So there's my voltage, right? And then if I set it to venting, it should have voltage. If I set it to not venting, it shouldn't have voltage, right? So I should see something like this. There we go. There we go. Oh. My switch is a little sticky on my thing. Right. Should be able to see it go up and down based on that, right? So let's say that we went in and it didn't have voltage coming out the control side like it's supposed to. but it did have power coming from the fuse, so that we know we had the power coming in. We need to verify that the computer is sending the signal and be able to see that. But judging by this, the solenoid is not switching. It's not turning on. So there's a problem with the solenoid. So we tested the solenoid directly. The solenoid is not working. So in that case, we can be pretty confident that that solenoid needs to be replaced. So we went through the code, we went through our studying, our TSBs and all that. And then we come to find out that, hey, this solenoid is bad. And that's where we're going to leave it for this week. Next week, we'll continue on with testing, more testing, and after the repair, ordering the parts, all that good stuff. So hopefully you can join me for that. So it'll be part 2 of this 2-part series on code-based diagnostics. We'll talk about that repair section where we actually go through and repair it and get the part for it, calculate our time. We're going to recalibrate if necessary, or do some sort of a system test maybe we might need to do. And then we'll write it up and we'll do a post scan and we'll send it on out on its way. So with that, that's what we're going to talk about next week. So hopefully you can join me, same time, same place, 6 and 9 Eastern. If you want to join me on Zoom, go to snapon.com/OT to register there. Otherwise, the 6 p.m. Eastern class goes live to our YouTube channel. So it'll be youtube.com/Snap-on Diagnostics. If you watch over there, please make sure you subscribe. And then the 9 o'clock, as we're doing right now, goes to my Facebook page. So it's facebook.com/SnapOnJason, all one word, no dash in the Snap-on. If you want to give me a follow and a like over there, that'd be much appreciated. That way you can always stay up to date with things that we're doing in the diagnostic world. We have a lot of new stuff coming out on YouTube very soon. Very soon. I don't know if they've even started releasing it yet, but we got a lot of stuff in the pipeline ready to come out. So definitely check that out when you get a chance. Also, if you want to see some of our prior topics, like this one, we can go through, and there's 47 different topics that we've covered so far in this video series. So pressure transducers, body electrical, intro to lab scope, all these different types of classes that we can go through, and they're all about 30-40 minutes long, and you can go through and give them a watch at your leisure if you wish to do so. So you can go to youtube.com/Snap-on Diagnostics for that. And with that, we're up to Q&A. Now, as I said, this is a pre-recorded session this week. So if you do have any questions, if you're watching on Zoom, just reply to the confirmation email. That'll go to my email inbox. If you're watching on YouTube, just leave a comment under the video and we'll help you out when we can. And then same thing with Facebook, leave a comment under the video and I will get to those as we go throughout. Also want to make sure I mention my buddy Al, who also does free diagnostic training. He does tool-specific training. So if you want to get a little bit more knowledge as to what your tool can do, how it works, Monday it's on Apollo, Wednesday it's on Zeus, and Thursday it's on Triton. So very thorough class, all the way from let's make sure your Wi-Fi set up, make sure that's all set and going, because a lot of features on the tool actually need Wi-Fi nowadays, and that's through the manufacturer even. All the way through, let's set up your free Snap-on Cloud account so you can upload and share files, and then we'll go through code to completion, fast track intelligent diagnostics. How does it help me as a technician diagnose vehicles faster? And then that's about an hour long for all that. Each night, depending on what tool it is, he'll just do it on the respective tool. Wednesday and Thursday, though, since those tools also have scope and meter functions, take a 5-minute break after that first hour. And he goes through another hour on the scope and the meter and real world examples of where you would use that and what it would look like, fuel pumps, things of that nature. So same time, same place, Monday, Wednesday, or Thursday, pick your tool, snapon.com/OT. He only goes to Zoom, so you'll need to be, it's more of an in-person type session. Your camera's not on, but he'll be able to answer your questions. You type them in the Q&A. He's definitely able to answer your questions live, and it's kind of designed to have the tool in front of you following along with what he's doing on the screen. So once again, go check him out, snapon.com/OT. It's free. With that, thank you very much for your time today. Thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your busy week to come join us. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week. Have a good night.